Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing something a bit different. We're going to bypass the big picture macro history of World War II, the troop movements and the high-level politics. Instead, we're diving straight into the visceral, terrifying reality of the Hiroshima bombing. And we're doing it through the intimate, ground-level words of a truly haunting piece of literature, a doctor's journal entry for August 6th, 1945. Let's get right into it.
So I want you to just picture a serene, completely ordinary morning. The poem kicks off right here, saying, "The morning stretched calm, beautiful, and warm." Our narrator is just sprawling there, half-clad, gazing out at the shimmering leaves and shadows in his garden. It's this moment of absolute perfect peace. Literally just seconds before the world as he knows it changes forever. And then, suddenly, without any warning whatsoever, that calm is just instantly vaporized. The text says, "A strong flash, then another, startled me." He sees an old stone lantern brightly lit up. And, he briefly wonders if it's magnesium flares. It's wild because it brilliantly shows how the human brain desperately tries to rationalize the totally inexplicable right before a shockwave actually hits.
Section 1, about the poet Vikram Seth. Let's actually pull back from the blast for just a second to establish the acclaimed author who penned this harrowing descent into silence.
So, the poet is Vikram Seth. And Seth brings this profoundly global perspective to his writing. He was born in Calcutta in 1952, educated at the Dawn School in India, where a teacher actually instilled this huge love of adventure in him before heading over to Tonbridge School in England for his A-levels. He published this specific poem in 1990, and it really reflects on the totally miserable picture of war, drawing from a super deep well of cross-cultural empathy. What's really fascinating here is Seth's pedigree. He isn't just some casual observer. The guy's an absolute master of his craft. Described by his early teachers as an indefatigable worker, his sheer energy translates into a ton of prestigious awards. We're talking the Padma Shri, the W.H. Smith Literary Award, the whole shebang. He's an expert at taking these complex, horrific human experiences and translating them into incredibly impactful, accessible literature. Okay, so the absolutely crucial point here is the genre we're dealing with. This is an anti-war poem. Rather than zooming out to the grand strategies of nations, Seth's work here acts kind of like a primary source-inspired artifact. It forces us, the readers, to confront the frightful, immediate physical reality of the survivors on August 6th, 1945. It strips away all the politics, all the context, and literally leaves us only with the fragile human body. Section 2, the sudden flash. Let's jump back to the text and re-enter the timeline right at the moment of impact to witness the absolute chaos that unfolds. Notice the stark, honestly horrifying juxtaposition here. On one side, we've got this relaxed morning observing nature. But look at the other side, literally mere moments later. The roof and walls just completely collapse in timber and debris. His clothes, his drawers, his undershirt, they literally disappear. Suddenly, a splinter is jutting from his mangled thigh. His cheek is torn. His right side is bleeding. The violence inflicted on the human body here is just instantaneous and absolute. As we look at the actual text from the source, we see the narrator's entire physical world collapsing. Dust is swirling everywhere. Blood is literally gushing from an artery in his neck. And, right in the middle of this profound, life-altering trauma, his very first thought is sheer panic for his wife. He says, "Where was my wife?" Alarmed, I gave a shout, "Where are you, Yecko-san?" The doctor's actions in this moment are pure, instinctual survival. It's wild. First, he detachedly dislodges a piece of glass from his own body. It's this chillingly calm, almost clinical, medical action right in the middle of absolute chaos. Second, he finds Yecko-san, who is pale and bloodstained herself, and urges her that they absolutely must get out quickly. And third, they just stumble into the street. Their drive to survive pushes them straight through these severe, life-threatening injuries just to escape the collapsing house. And the moment they actually reach the street, this macabre journey truly kicks in. They trip over something. The doctor gasps when he looks down and realizes it's a human head. A heavy gate had completely crushed a man to death. And here, the narrator's ingrained societal politeness kicks in with this absurd, absolutely heartbreaking response. He says, "Excuse me, please excuse me, he was dead." It's just this incredible, horrific collision of polite society and absolute apocalypse. Section 3, the blank parade. From this point on, the narrative completely shifts from that sudden, violent physical destruction into this agonizing psychological march for survival. The imagery in this next passage is just terrifying. Houses are tilting, swaying, toppling, and crashing down right before their eyes. Fires springs up in the dust, whipping around and spreading by the wind. It dawns on the doctor that they absolutely have to get to the hospital for aid. And, being a doctor, he actually thinks he should help his staff too, though he almost immediately catches himself and questions how he possibly could in his current state. But look at the mounting physical toll here. His legs just give way. He is seized by this incredibly intense thirst, but there's literally no water to be found anywhere. He's short of breath, he realizes he's completely naked, yet oddly feels no shame, a detail that actually disturbs him a bit until a silent soldier hands him a towel. His legs eventually just rebel, totally stiff with dried blood. His body is rapidly shutting down on him. So this physical collapse forces a truly heartbreaking decision. He has to tell his wife, Yecko-san, to go on ahead without him. She obviously doesn't want to, but what other choice do they have, right? As the text says, a dreadful loneliness washes over him the second she leaves. His mind is racing at high speed, analyzing all this horror, but his body is just creeping behind. It really illustrates the tragic, profound isolation that severe trauma forces upon a person. As he continues on alone, he encounters the shadowy forms of other people, and this chilling realization sets in. He sees a naked woman with a child and wonders, almost absurdly, if they had just come back from the bath. Then he sees a naked man, and the thought finally hits him. Some strange thing had stripped us of our clothes. The sheer force of the blast hasn't just leveled buildings, it has literally blown the clothing right off the citizens. Section 4. A chilling silence. As the doctor shuffles forward in this blank parade of naked, traumatized survivors, the physical horror starts to give way to an overwhelming psychological one. Let's look at the climax of the poem. You've got to look at this imagery. The victims don't even look human anymore. They're described as ghosts and scarecrows. But here is absolutely the most harrowing detail. They are all walking with their arms stretched straight out in front of them, from shoulder to dangling hand. Why? Because the friction of their severe burns rubbing against their own bodies causes way too much agonizing pain. They're literally terrified to chafe their own raw flesh. And this leads us straight to the culmination of the poem. He sees the face of an old woman on the ground, completely marred with suffering, but she's not making a single sound. The doctor observes, "Silence was common to us all. I heard no cries of anguish or a single word." Think about that. In a scene of the utmost devastation, pain, and death, there is no screaming. There is only this absolute, unnatural quiet. I want to leave you with this final question to ponder today. How does a profound, collective silence convey way more horror than 1,000 cries of anguish? This complete lack of sound leaves us with a haunting realization of total community-wide shock. It really urges us to reflect on those moments when trauma is just so immense, so incomprehensible that human language itself completely fails. What happens to humanity when words can no longer capture the aftermath? Thank you for exploring this incredibly powerful piece of history and literature with me today. Take some time to really think on that silence.